All right, Al, it's 6 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Let's get this thing going. Actually, it says, rise. I'm going to give it a little bit of time.
All right.
Yeah.
Ooh, turn that off.
That's actually, thank you for that.
I know.
I don't even want to buzz. I'm just going to put it on silent and keep it moving.
Yeah, that's what I'm. I'm putting mine on total silence.
Right.
Man, maybe one day we can do this at the Butler Street Y in the Coretta's Conversation Pit.
Yeah, well, I want to hang off the rafters on the indoor track. That's my favorite part of that building, man. The fact that they have upstairs indoor track. Wait, don't say that. I don't even want to know.
Exactly. We're actually going to make that a sitting area, so you can look down. See, have you really looked at the video?
I have looked at the video. I saw the thing.
Yeah. There's the gym we converted to like a dining facility, conference hall, training facility. Yeah, I'm excited about that project, man.
It's beautiful, and I'm glad we can show it tonight to everybody watching.
Yeah, I am. I am definitely excited about that project. Hold on, somebody. I told her I'm good to go. I'm going live.
I'm gonna put you on mute if you don't mess up. We have a
you're fine. You're fine.
A wee bit of an audience coming. This is so funny. I'm just learning how to leave.
Oh, you can tell people. You got to let people in, right?
No, they come. They're gonna come. They're gonna stream on. We should actually let's get going.
Okay, go right ahead, bro.
And we will introduce. People will sort of flow in as they get in because we're just after 6, and I want to be mindful of the time.
Yeah.
Well, we're live, and welcome everyone. And thank you for joining us this evening for our second webinar promoting the first Historic African American Neighborhoods and District Symposium, or HAANDS. In fact, the start of this very broadcast means that we're exactly 21 days away from the virtual symposium that was started to bring together leaders and practitioners who devote their time and effort to preserving historic Black places. This HANDS is an initiative that was funded with support from the National Trust for Historic Preservation's African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund. It's a $25+ million fund created to preserve Black cultural heritage around the country. I'm sure we need more than $25 million. HANDS was also created in partnership with our friends from Urban Impact in Birmingham. They're the stewards of Birmingham's historic African American Main Street, the 4th Avenue district there. Now, my name is Leonel Varnell, and I'm with Sweet Auburn Works. We are the preservation-based economic development and Main Street organization tasked with promoting, revitalizing, and preserving the Sweet Auburn Historic District. Joining me in that effort is SAW's new board chair, here seen, and our featured speaker tonight for this evening's webinar, Alfonza Marshall. Together with a dedicated team of board directors, stakeholders, and friends of Sweet Auburn, we work tirelessly to retain the magic of Sweet Auburn every day. And this evening, we'll be discussing a topic crucial to our work in Sweet Auburn and other neighborhoods and districts like ours all around the country. That being, what role does Black real estate ownership play in cultural heritage preservation of Black places? So intuitively, that notion makes a lot of sense, right? But the obstacles that get in the way of this technique to preserve culture and heritage make this anything but straightforward. But before we get into our discussion with Al, I want to create a backdrop to understand this notion of culture and heritage creation in our neighborhoods. And even before we take what that means for granted, what is this definition of cultural heritage? Apologies. So UNESCO states that the concept of cultural heritage is the legacy of physical things like buildings and monuments, works of art, written documents, and then the intangible things like folklore, traditions, vernacular language, of any group that's inherited from the past, maintained in the present, and bestowed for the benefit of future generations. They go on to say that a distinctive and irreplaceable cultural heritage is a crucial element to the fabric of all of society. Now, important to note, after that definition, this is not going to be an academic discussion. Everybody who knows me knows it won't, but I just have to say it out loud. While this is a serious concept and topic, we're going to have a good time tonight exploring, just a fun time tonight exploring it. I did want all of us to have that definition as a basis for understanding what the discussion is about. Cultural heritage preservation, to me, is important because it serves as a record of our past to celebrate, learn from, and provide a guide for our collective future. Now, let's start with the culture of Sweet Auburn. I know you guys probably thought I was going to show you a bunch of old stuff, right? But in fact, no. The Sweet Auburn community grew from very humble beginnings in the mid to late 19th century when Bethel Tabernacle, in the late 1840s, was the first church for African Americans in Atlanta, and its successor, Big Bethel, the first Black church on Auburn Avenue in 1868. You see their iconic Jesus Saves sign here. Later, just before and after the turn of the century, the business and civic community on Auburn Avenue began to grow, accelerated by the 1906 race riot. Soon, the effects of Black business and capital and expertise in this small community led to some really remarkable commercial and civic achievement. Now, stay with me, there's a long list, but I have to tell you. So, for example, we had the first public school for African Americans in Atlanta. We were the first organization for Black physicians in the country. We were home to the first Black CPA in the country. We were the first integrated nightclub in Atlanta. We were the first Black-owned office. We had the first Black-owned office building in Atlanta. We held the first successful daily Black newspaper in the country, the first Black-owned radio station in the country, the first Black-owned bottling company in the country, and the list goes on. Luckily today, Auburn still has that physical and spiritual remnants of all those past successes. And I'll note here, you see the Sweet Auburn Bread Company and our esteemed board chair in the image. They've been in the neighborhood for over 20 years, and hopefully even the wildly popular Slutty Vegan chain can find similar success being located here in the neighborhood. I mentioned a certain magic of Sweet Auburn earlier, and we believe it's that magic that helps create an environment to attract new successes. Technology. All right, so that magic has been and will be in the future created by organizations much like the historic Butler Street YMCA. Alfonza, thank you for being here and sitting through that public service announcement for the neighborhood. You know I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't get all that in, but I had to.
Not at all. Not at all.
Thank you, sir. But as we think about anchor institutions in general that create a culture and magic in Sweet Auburn, we have to put Butler Street Y high on the list.
That's right.
Can you please introduce yourself to our audience and tell them a little bit about the current owners of Butler Street Y and your role there?
I sure will. Good evening, everyone. My name is Alfonza X Marshall. I'm currently the board chair of the Butler Street Community Development Corporation, which was formerly the Butler Street YMCA. Many of you probably have never heard of the Butler Street YMCA, and the history is about 125 years old. And when people ask me about the Butler Street YMCA, it's hard to kind of compact 125 years into like a 5 minute. It started in 1894 in the Wheat Street Baptist Church basement, just getting started as kind of just a basic Y. From the 1900s up until the 1960s, Butler Street Y was involved in a lot of civil rights organizations, voter rights. It housed the first Atlanta Black police officers. It was just a place that Black people can go and meet and congregate and really talk about certain things. So I would say probably from the first 55 to 60 years, the Butler Street Y was really an action organization. When things needed to be done in Atlanta, as far as, Black-white relations, it was held there at Butler Street YMCA. Now, I don't know kind of what happened between the 1970s. There's a lot of feelings across America that after King was killed, the Black communities went through a traumatic experience. And for the last probably 40 or 50 years, the Butler Street Y has been kind of like frozen in time. And pretty much kind of most areas that we're going to talk about, how do we revitalize these areas, keep some of the cultural heritage, at the same time making it economic viable so that we can maintain these buildings. The Butler Street Corporation, Community Development Corporation, came about because about 2013, we were no longer operating as a Y. And you have to have programming to become and maintain a Y status. So with that, our charter was pulled. The only thing that remained of Butler Street Community Development Corporation were the assets. And our assets range from Vine City, Summer Hill, of course, Sweet Auburn, Cascade, Historic College Park, and West Atlanta. So the people that came before me have already established a footprint in Atlanta with a lot of land that we, as the gatekeepers, will not give away or sell. So what our objective is now is to kind of take these buildings and rehab them, maybe not to the original state, but to a state that people could come back to them and use them for some purpose that they did before. It's a monumental task, and we need support from, the community, government, corporate, but it's one that I think the Butler Street Community Development Corporation can definitely achieve.
Al, thank you for that, man. That's a great background to the organization that's the steward of all these assets. I do want to go back and talk a little bit about that history that you were just talking about. Man, I remember one time we were talking and you said when you went to Chicago to train at the YMCA headquarters, that the Butler Street Y in Atlanta was a part of that training. Tell me about that. Tell the audience about it.
Yes. When I first joined the board, the first thing you want to do when you join any organization is find out the history and everything it is to know about that. I was invited to Chicago to learn about the YMCA, the National YMCA, and I'm sitting down at a table, and I'm looking through the orientation, employee orientation, should I say, and there's a question in there that no matter where you go in the world, you have to know something about Butler Street Y. And it was mind-boggling because you can be in London, you can be in Australia, you can be anywhere there's a Y. They're going to ask you a question about where did Martin Luther King attend? And everybody has to answer this question, or at least try to find out what it is. And it's the Butler Street YMCA. So that in itself tells people how, I guess, impactful the Butler Street Y is or used to be to the YMCA, but also to the Sweet Auburn community. So that was amazing that no matter where you went in the world, you had to hear our name at that time.
I love it. I also think that one of the unique features of our Y was its independence.
Yes.
Yeah, can you discuss that?
Yeah. So because the historical nature of how Black organizations get kind of chewed up and merged and lose their identity, the Butler Street Y wanted to stay independent. And that independence, I believe after now 12 years, may have costed its charter. Butler Street did not want to merge with the main YMCA or the Metro because they wanted to kind of keep things, I don't want to say culturally Black, but they wanted to maintain that sense of history that this is why the Y was started, to bring about civil rights and political change in the community. It didn't see itself as just come swim, come play, come spend a night. It really saw itself as an organization of social change. So the board members before me decided that they did not want to be part of the Metro Y. And at that time, it cost you money. They could no longer really receive any funding from the National Y. And I will share a story on that. It's kind of like they were outcasts.
Sure.
You're not part of the Y. You don't want to follow these protocols. You don't want to do certain things. So it's going to cost you. And I'll share a story when I was in Chicago that time. I was speaking to the vice president, and I'm not sure the title at the time, but I think she was pretty much over fundraising or giving out the money. And we're sitting in her office, and she says, "You know what, Al? I got $500,000 that I have to give away by the end of the month. But guess what? I can't give it to you." And at that time, Butler Street Y was bleeding in hemorrhages from financial situation, and just to hear an organization that has changed the world not being allowed to receive money from the National Y because it didn't want to merge. So, but that just goes to show you, some of the things that Black organizations go through when they try to maintain their independence.
Al, I hear you, and I feel you. Let's pivot. Let's pivot back a little bit to the mid 1900s. There's a quote that said that the Butler Street Y earned its nickname Black City Hall because of how it was situated in our community, in the community, in this family of the community that we're in. That was both vibrant and commercially, successful. The Y functioned as not just a gym or rooming house, but it was the literal favorite meeting place for political discussions among the city's Black leaders, and the de facto headquarters of what would become the Atlanta Negro Voters League. I was snooping around online and I found an oral history project quoting Jesse Hill, the former CEO of the Atlanta Life Insurance Building. And Jesse Hill said that when he first came to Atlanta, he used to stay at the Butler YMCA. When it was a rooming house. And he said on a daily basis, man, he met titans of the Black civic and business community, including Benjamin E. Mays, shout out to the Morehouse president, and John Wesley Dobbs, and any other titan of Atlanta business community would walk by on any given day. And he says it molded and shaped his matriculation into the Atlanta business community. So it was clearly not just another Y. What I want to do now is I found some old images, and I just want to run them by you, and you tell me what you think. Some of them I think you might be familiar with, but some of them were just interesting to me because of the feeling that you got looking at how people embraced the Y back in the day. So this was when there was programming still happening inside the Y. Can you guess about what year this would be, you think?
I want to say that picture may be mid 70s.
Right.
Yeah, early 70s.
But it's always been an active part of the community for kids.
Yeah, yeah.
Right?
I can tell you unequivocally, if you were born and raised in Atlanta, um, you probably attended the Y. Sorry, I'm trying to pop up. Yeah, you probably attended the Y. Most black youth that are in their 40s or 50s. I'm not sure about the 30-year-old crowd that's from Atlanta, but probably the 40s to 50 probably attended the Butler Street YMCA throughout the Metro Atlanta, and they can speak to it and the impact that it had on their lives. Yes, sir.
Fantastic. I want to find this vintage T-shirt, man. I love this T-shirt.
Okay.
This kid. So this is the again active programming.
Yeah.
And this image is in a portrait of the Atlanta Negro Voters League. Can you talk a little bit about that's existence in the YMCA in the late 40s?
Yeah. So the Atlanta Negro Voting League was started by John Wesley Dobb and A.T. Walden. And if we had a picture, there's a building to the right that we're actually kind of revitalizing. A.T. Walden was a Democrat and John Wesley Dobbs was a Republican. And what they did was kind of what, if I had to sum it up, kind of what Stacey Abrams is doing today, getting people out to get the information on how to go about voting. This is pretty much any politician in Atlanta, stemming from Senator Leroy Johnson. These people here were the pioneer to put that voting process in motion, and many of us they are benefiting from this particular group of people today, who went out and some of them lost their lives.
Right.
For us to vote today. So this, I had never seen this picture before, but I'm familiar with the story of the Atlanta Negro League. That's the beauty of the Butler Street YMCA history. It's just I come across pictures, man, that just blows your mind that it all started here in Atlanta. Really, if you were somebody and you came to Atlanta to be somebody or want to be somebody, right, you probably got a room here at this YMCA, because we
Jesse Hill already told you that he couldn't have been Jesse Hill were he not rooming and Mr. Walden walking by and Mr. Dobbs walking by and Benny Mays walking by.
That's right.
And he could just learn, I call it drinking from the fire hose. So one of the interesting things that this group did in galvanizing the African American vote in our neighborhood and beyond, we began to get some political clout and some political power. This next image is interesting. You want to describe what folks are looking at here?
that is 3 of the Atlanta's first Black police officers, and because they were not allowed to basically be in the same office as the white officers, their precinct was actually in the Butler Street YMCA, and it's ironic to look at this picture because about 2 years ago, when the Super Bowl was in Atlanta, NFL Films, I met with them, and they actually, and I don't know if you had that photo, they actually commissioned, 8 photos to be kind of draft, colored, painted by the local community. And we actually hung those photos up in the 8 windows that facing Jesse Hill. I don't know, did you put that photo in there?
No, unfortunately, I didn't. I'm trying to keep it tight.
I know you are. I know you are.
But it's beautiful.
But these Black officers could not arrest or walk up and do anything to white people. They would just they can only call ahead to the white police precinct to come in and handle the situation. Man, how far have we come since that photo? Wow.
How maybe far, maybe not. Not to be discussed in this forum.
Not at all.
But one of the again, the political clout that was created on behalf of the Atlanta Negro Voters League got us this opportunity to at least have some African American police force in our own neighborhood. Sure, they couldn't pull over or arrest a person not of color, but it is what it is. And this was in 1948, I believe.
Yeah,
Right.
1948.
Now,
Oh, wow.
this, yeah. For those who, it's hard to see, but the woman at the podium is none other than the late Coretta Scott King. And Al, why don't you tell everybody what they're looking at here?
Wow. They are looking at Coretta Scott King speaking at the Hungry Club Forum, which was established around 1942. And at first, it started as a secret organization between blacks and whites to get together and talk about social, civil rights issues. Um, and it had to be that way because basically it was only like what 40 years removed from the riots. So
Right.
so Butler Street, this picture here is Coretta Scott King speaking at one of those forums that allow black people and white people to start talking about kind of the change that has occurred in the civil rights movement, the first Atlanta black officers, the Negro Voting League. This club here, which we are actually thinking about revitalizing and revamping and bringing back, really probably catapult Atlanta into why we have black mayors, why we can go into Buckhead now, why we can go anywhere in Atlanta.
Sure.
And what you're looking at, this particular picture here is actually in the 22 gym, which we have something for you at the end. But man, you got all the good photos.
Yeah, for those of you who heard me speaking earlier, I told you one of my favorite parts of this historic structure. If you can look in the rafters, that the railing is an upstairs running track
Yes.
For this African American YMCA that was built pre-Depression. This building was absolutely amazing. It had every amenity you could possibly want in the modern YMCA so long ago.
Yes.
So look, let's go back to our definition of cultural heritage. Man, this building represents that. Everything in it, everything we've seen is a testament to Black Atlanta in the early, mid to later 20th century, and it's interesting to me. Let me ask you before I ask a hard question about when did the building stop being used?
2013.
Okay.
Officially, but probably the pool
Mm-hmm.
and the gym probably predates me. I came in around the end of 2010.
Yeah.
I know none of that was operational.
Right.
That's why they built the annex across the street. So I would say probably late 70s, early 80s that the majority of this stuff probably shut down. But this gym here is iconic as well because this is where Morehouse and Clark Atlanta played their basketball games before they actually built the gym. So
now you're teaching me something. I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And one other thing, this is to bring it up to speed, how we use the building to teach that heritage. This particular gym is actually the scene in 42 with Chadwick Boswick. This gym is actually the scene where who's that? Harrison Ford is telling the public that he's gonna let Jackie play professional football. It was in that gym that scene is shot. So if you ever look at 42 again, this is the gym that scene was shot in.
I love it. Just another movie site in the Sweet Auburn neighborhood.
That's right.
Another conversation for another day.
Yes, sir.
Well, let me ask you, Al. So when it closed, or when you guys stopped using it, did you have a plan for the building's use after it was closed?
Well, because we were operating as a nonprofit without any financial support, we were, I don't want to say at the time desperate, but we were looking for opportunity to make a change in the neighborhood. And just a little backdrop about me, I am a disabled veteran of the Desert Storm War. And we were approached by a gentleman that, provided affordable housing. And I'm pretty sure you don't have it up for sake of time, but we had an opportunity let me back up a little bit. Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, said that they wanted affordable housing, and they wanted affordable housing in areas that most people don't get an opportunity. The initial project was not only affordable housing but workforce housing, but then it also provided housing for disabled vets,
right?
People that served our country. But they stigmatize it and try to make it seem like it was going to be for vets that were having mental challenges. We applied for the low income tax credits, and we were winning. And I don't know if anybody is listening or understand how the government goes about selecting projects for tax credits, but you're supposed to bring on more units for people to live. Well, the powers that be, whoever they are, somehow deducted 2 points. Now, I want you to listen to this story, how this works for Black people trying to develop. We lost 2 points, which made us lose the winning bid, because they said that building that you're looking at there on the screen was not designated as a historic structure.
Interesting.
For the state government. Now, if you go to the National Historic, District and all these places, you see the 22, we got a placard that is a historic building because of what transpired. But in that process that year, Atlanta did not bring on one new unit of housing.
Right.
They only brought on refurbished units. And I won't say any names, but anybody want to go back to 2013, they can see how we were actually going to do something good for the community. And I wish you had the layout of it, but that's neither here nor there. But what it taught me is that in our community, if somebody doesn't want something to happen, they definitely can make it go away, under the disguise that you didn't have something that could have easily been rectified. So that was the first thing. We really wanted to make that building, kind of the same YMCA, because the structure of that building won't let you change the room. So it was already 43 SROs, which is single residency occupancy, meaning that you didn't have to go in and put bathrooms and stuff like that. They could all use community areas. It made it affordable. And the VA had already given us the opportunity to get these vouchers, so that it took the strain off the city. But the interesting part about this story, and I'm gonna finish up, is that next year, I'll call out the acronym. DCA did away with SROs, meaning now you had to make all the rooms had bathrooms, and little apartments. And I think it was because they didn't want us to come back to do that same project again. I mean, it's a phenomenal what we've been through in the last 10 years. But go right ahead, brother.
Al, I'm gonna let you finish. I will say this.
Yes, sir.
I'm fully aware there have been what I think people would consider to be fits and starts with the building, with very meaningful efforts to redevelop not just that building, but all of the historic parcels that you guys own in the neighborhood.
Yes.
It's funny. I was going to ask you a tongue-in-cheek question. Has the historical significance of the YMCA made it easier for you guys to redevelop it? But you've already given a very clear answer on how you feel about that, so I won't belabor it. I will ask you a question, though.
Yes, sir.
Are you interested in talking about the Sweet Auburn Grand effort? I'm sorry, the Sweet Auburn Ballroom effort.
The Sweet Auburn Ballroom. Ooh, the Live Nation deal.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
It was beautiful. It caused us a lot of flack from the church community. We thought it was a viable opportunity to bring something like the Royal Peacock back to that area. We also We also looked at it from a financial standpoint that Live Nation is a multi-billion-dollar organization that had guaranteed, you know, a 20-year lease.
Right.
And if you look to the left, for those who are looking, that was going to be kind of a parking structure with some retail and office space that we were going to lease back to the community below market. Everything that Butler Street CDC has tried to do and continue to try to do is try to make this area affordable for those that might not get an opportunity to live in Midtown or have offices in Midtown, and sometimes that may have cost us opportunities.
Right.
But the Live Nation deal was interesting because, not to get too detailed about the numbers, but Butler Street pretty much went out and secured probably over 70% of the money. What I'm about to tell you is kind of, it's heart touching, but Blacks in general create no real estate value. Those that are listening, I want you to understand this, and it's not derogatory. We create no real estate value unless urban renewal or gentrification, because this deal here taught me that. This deal was pretty much backed by Invest Atlanta with a $1 million tag. We were the first one granted the $1 million tag. They could have came in and did what they had to do. But guess what? They were offered a better, less money intense deal in Buckhead.
Live Nation was, you're saying?
Yeah,
Live Nation was offered a better deal.
They went to Buckhead. And
okay.
and this deal got turned around and got treated with like, we'll do it, but we don't want to do it at the magnitude that we once want to do it, because Buckhead offers a more lucrative financial return. But that was a situation that we were so close to being catalytic for Auburn Avenue. But go ahead, sir.
Well, Al, I'll ask you a question. I mean,
yes, sir.
I recall that what we were going to do was take some of the proceeds from the commercial activities from this building, then use them to work on the historic structure across the street, right?
Yes, that's exactly right. This project is going to feed the 22 in the AD Walden building. Man, I wish you had them pictures up.
No, hold on a minute. I just want, just for the audience, when Al refers to 22 Butler Street, 22 Jesse Hill is the historic Butler Street YMCA image that we showed at the top of this part of the conversation. It goes without saying that an old historic building built, pre-depression requires subsidy, for adaptive rehab and a lot of capital. And this redevelopment plan for the parcels on the other side of the street would help sort of defray some of those costs. Now, Al, I'm aware that with the entirety of your portfolio of the city, all over the city, you have been, I don't want to say robbing Peter to pay Paul, but you've had to make do with the assets you have.
Yes, sir.
Do you, I can show another building. Can you describe what happened, how this building fit into the portfolio and sort of supported that last bit of narrative we were talking about?
Great. What you're looking at there is historic YMCA that was built around 1950. It is in the Vine City, Washington Park area of Atlanta. And those who
can I tell folks? I'm
sorry.
Go right ahead, Al. I just wanted to let them know it's 2 blocks away from Washington High School.
Yeah. Washington High School on the backside of the kind of maybe a 5-minute walk from the $1 billion Atlanta Falcons stadium, dome, whatever they call it now. But this here was a staple in the neighborhood. It probably shut down due to lack of financing, and this is kind of that domino effect of not joining the national Y or the metro Y. When you kind of say you independent, what they're saying is go act independent. Don't come to us asking for any money. So this particular building here was shut down, and it was not functioning. And as you all know, you leave a building standing, homeless people, people looking to make some money will get inside and damage it. Um, One of the strategic moves I had to make is I had to sell this property around 2013, and I had to sell it in order to reacquire a more, I guess, historic asset, the Savoy Hotel, which sits at 239 Auburn Avenue. Um, it was sold on the county steps for a little under 100,000. So we would rather have that piece of land because where it sits and what we were trying to do with the development that I actually, with the approval of the board, sold this particular property in order to regain another property. That property was purchased by an organization out of San Francisco that was trying to start a theology school. As of today, as of yesterday, when I went by there, it still has not begun started anything. So it's just sitting vacant. So the hopes of Butler Street CDC is maybe to reacquire that property. I think the way the neighborhood is going, I don't think a theology school would fit there. But maybe another community center, because there's Washington Park right across the street, which services a lot of kids there. But these are some of the things that Black organizations have to do to take care of something, to stop bleeding somewhere else. So that is a nice building there. It's about 50,000 square feet. As a matter of fact, the WNBA actually redid the floor probably around 2009 under their banner WNBA Cares. So the floor was, it's a heck of a building. Served a lot of kids.
It's a beautiful building. It's massive and it's in an amazing part of Atlanta.
Yeah, and they may be holding back to see if a developer comes in and buy it, but it could be put to use in today's world. But yeah, that is Holly Street. Yes, sir.
Al, I want to make sure that before we get too far off the previous topics of Sweet Auburn Ballroom, the Live Nation deal, and
yes, sir.
We've got a couple of questions in the chat, and let me make sure. Look at me taking off my glasses. This is no comment. So Vicky Howell says, so you're saying Live Nation scuttled the deal because they wanted to make more money in Buckhead, or something else happened to kill this wonderful opportunity? With 2 question marks. Al, your thoughts?
Yeah. Not to get too detailed, but sure. Live Nation basically want to redesign the whole building with less seating, which would have caused us to not make any money.
Right.
Put us at a greater economical risk for the amount of money we had taken out and we had signed for. So that's the bulk of it.
Right.
Put like this, it went from to kind of make it simple. It went from being a 1,200 person capacity to 600.
Right.
We were still on the hook for our money, but they didn't want to be on their hook for their money. They wanted their money to decrease.
Guaranteed revenue was halved, essentially.
Yeah.
I get it.
But
I get it completely.
They want to decrease their risk. So yeah,
I get it.
Hopefully I answered the question without stepping on too many toes, but that's basically what happened.
No worries, Al. We appreciate it. One more question was more from a community perspective. Yes. Carolina Rodriguez asks, how might a property tax abatement be helpful to businesses, likely property owners in Sweet Auburn? I will say that I will say this that Al's the chair of our board of Sweet Auburn Works, so he knows as well. But it's an interesting fact in this neighborhood that organizations like Al, which are legacy African American nonprofit institutions, own better than 50% of the addressable vacant land and building in this neighborhood. So I'll rattle off names for you: Ebenezer Church, Wheat Street Baptist Church, Big Bethel Church, the Historic District Development Corporation are the largest landowning stakeholders in the neighborhood, and all structured as nonprofits. And while many of them have some tax bills, it's a different phenomenon. But Al, did you have a thought on that?
So we're looking at that, but what we've been told is that we need to be further along in a project and show the maybe the increased tax revenue that may come from this new development before it's considered. A lot of stuff we as a nonprofit we're taxed on because it's not usable, like the old historic Y, because it's boarded up. Because I've been down there to tell them the history and what we're trying to do, but because it's boarded up and things are in disrepair, they can't offer that tax abatement or that tax exempt status. So, but we have, we do have that in our kind of plan to go back and say, listen, can you abate these taxes for maybe 2 or 3 years till we get this project finished and developed, and until maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years. But yeah, we're hoping that happens for us. Yes, sir.
Now, and then David added about the Y on Ollie and some additional challenges that the building has had over the years, inclusive of a fire. So I want to leave some time. I know we're supposed to have a hard stop at 7. I want to leave some time for some additional questions and just a discussion. I told you guys I wanted to have fun with this, and I wanted us to just sort of share thoughts, ideas, and challenges. The idea, as we think about the bigger picture, is that in our neighborhoods, with our ownership and with our usage, we all share the same challenges all over the country, with trying to bring our buildings back online and do it in a fashion that's meaningful to the ownership in our Black neighborhoods, with our Black owners. I just mentioned to you the ownership structure that we have in this neighborhood, which creates an environment where the usages just look a little different. It's rare from a commercial developer's perspective, to see highest and best use from our assets in our neighborhood. I've got owners who are interested in having affordable housing and having affordable commercial, in creating community space with their parcels, and it's not, it doesn't attract capital the way you'd like it to, and finding the philanthropic capital is even more challenging still. So we want to have these conversations meaningfully and try and discuss some solutions at a national level for how we can get what we need in the neighborhood from our owners, and continue to build on the cultural heritage that we've experienced in the past, and we attempt to keep in the neighborhood in the future. I've got one more question from Vicky Howell. So what are the practical ways to create value in these neighborhoods and districts without gentrification or a good mix of incomes? Did you hear that, Al?
Yeah, I say the first thing is we have to get more professional Black people to live back in Auburn Avenue, that's willing to invest, to buy, to shop. Until you get professional Black people back on Auburn Avenue, I think gentrification will rule the day. And how do you get us to look at Auburn Avenue like we did back in 1957, when it was one of the richest Negro streets in America? it is something I have yet to figure out in the last 13 years. Yeah.
Al,
That was who was that asked that question?
Vicky Howell. So let me
Vicky, yes.
go ahead.
Go
No,
ahead.
go ahead. Give her the
No,
personal.
no, Vicky, I tell you, I struggle with that, time and time again. How do we get professional Black people to live in Black neighborhoods that once were Black neighborhoods? And I don't know. Maybe offer them a tax abatement. I don't know. I don't.
So
I
Al,
can't figure it out. Yes, sir.
I'll add to that
Yes.
I hate to use that language of magic again, but because
Yes.
of something intrinsic in what we are, we're still attracting capital, which is
Yes.
amazing. The new entrepreneurship, the new smart, well-pocketed Black money is finding its way. It's seeping back into the neighborhood as the economy gets a little bit stronger over the last, unfortunately through this past year was terrible, but we've come back really strongly. We've introduced in at least 5 or 6 new African American operators in the neighborhood, and we continue to go out and recruit and do so. Yeah, I see your follow-up that we mentioned earlier that Black areas of real estate don't have high value. I would layer on top of that that we don't have commiserate value. One of the things that I like to say in public lately is that it's odd to me that Centennial Yards was placed at a value of, it's de novo 40 acres, which is the Gulch redevelopment in downtown Atlanta, just west of Sweet Auburn, at $12.5 million an acre. And just east of our neighborhood, around the Beltline, land has been valued just north of $10 million an acre. But for whatever reasons, everything in the middle can very comfortably and casually be valued at less than $1 million an acre for some reason. And it's a larger conversation for a different day. And it's actually the reason why Al and I go to work every day with Sweet Auburn Works, is to equivocate those values and make sure that our landowners get an opportunity to redevelop these parcels with the right value on their own terms. We haven't even had a part of our conversation that isn't necessarily universal, but germane to a lot of places, in the sense that we are a National Historic Landmark District and a City of Atlanta Landmark District, which restricts, I can't go up 20 stories, nor do I want to, but it does restrict some of the opportunistic value that we could create with our parcels of land. We love our funky architectural rhythm. We love, our 5-story contiguous storefronted period brick architecture. It's very walkable. It's very bikeable. It's very close knitted. We're going to keep it that way, but we lots of neighborhoods like ours need assistance to help bring that back and recreate these spaces for new commercial activities, for new businesses, for new owners. Let's see. Carolina just wrote, "So important to keep ownership. Thank you for your work." Oh, that's very kind.
Thank you.
We work really hard, but we don't. There's no choice. The mantra in the shop is that failure is not an option, and so we keep going at this every day. To those that we're getting kind of late. Al, I'm going to remind people why we're here. If you like the content here and this is just some local, regional, anecdotal work, we're, as I mentioned earlier at the top of the show, with the assistance of the African American Cultural Heritage Action Fund, ourselves and Urban Impact of Birmingham and a host of like-minded organizations around the country are hosting a virtual conference, a virtual get-together of leaders and practitioners who believe in preserving historic African American neighborhoods and districts. It'll be on the 27th and the 28th. It'll be content that is germane to all of us in attempting to do this work well and better and continually into the future. And we hope you'll join us. The easiest way to find out about us is at HAANDS.org. That's HAANDS with 2 A's, HAANDS.org. It's easy to learn how to register for the conference there. And in the next coming days, it will have some new features on speakers and content. I think you're really going to enjoy it. We're going to keep it short and sweet and fun, but it's going to be deep and impactful for those of us who take this work very seriously. I want to give one quick shout out, by the way, to one thing before we leave. I love this about our HAANDS, our HAANDS logo. For those of you who have researching minds and historic in nature, I want you to Google Fitzgerald bricks and look at the H in our HAANDS logo, and hopefully we can meet up and discuss that in 21 days from now in the conference. But historic Fitzgerald bricks out of North Carolina, and remember the image of our H. Al, is there anything you'd like to say to our audience before we sign off?
Just that anybody interested in doing this work, Black redevelopment is not for the faint at heart. You cannot be in this work, without dealing with crime, drugs, homelessness, and just a plethora of other things. And I say this because, I'm 12 years in this, and I want to tell Luana, I stopped giving interviews a long time ago because I just got tired of talking. I was gun-ho, 2011, 2012. I was a young guy with, a head full of hair. Now I'm gray and bald. But in this line of work, one day you could be talking with the vice president of a bank about, a multi-million-dollar loan, a loan forgiveness. You could be discussing plans to do a gym with the NBA, and the next moment you could be at the courthouse talking to a judge about a fine of a building that needs to be torn down, but the preservationists won't let you, but nor do they have the money to help you rebuild it. While you doing all this while riding in the backseat of the Atlanta police car, identifying drug dealers that want to kill you because they've taken over your lot. So I tell you firsthand, I can speak from experience that this is not for the faint of heart. And if you want to get involved, you got to care, and it can't be about the money. And my motto, and Luana will tell you that I'm the chairman of the board of both these organizations because I'm always giving a damn when it's not my turn. That has been my motto. I'm always caring when it's not my turn. But we hope that everybody's on this Zoom call or powered by stream that they get it, that this is hard work trying to redevelop and save Black history. But thank you for listening.
Al, I appreciate you sharing with us, man. I know I pulled this one out of you, but I don't know anybody else there we can really discuss at length and the ups and downs and the challenges. And I know it sounds fatalistic.
And to do this without money.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you still right.
That's important.
Al, we appreciate your efforts, man, and we're gonna keep at this alongside you and the rest of our owners until we and we're gonna keep growing on our terms. Yes. And I appreciate your honesty. Oh, even Elijah just said, great and honest conversation. We love you, man. So with that, everyone, we will sign off. This will be saved and available for rebroadcast on the HAANDS Conference YouTube channel. So anytime you want to get a healthy dose of reality, feel free to play this again. I'll
apologize.
I'll stop it. It's been an honor and a privilege, and you guys have a wonderful evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.